Parashat Shoftim starts as follows, and I'll quote you the pasuk. The pasuk is in Devarim, chapter 16, verse 18. It says, Shoftim v'shoterim, you shall take for yourself judges and law enforcers, policemen literally. Titen lecha b'chol sharecha, you're going to put them in each and every one of your gates. Asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha lishvatecha, in each of the cities that God has given you. When the Jewish people entered the land of Israel, they each had their division, their specific portion to the land. At every gate of every city, you shall put judges and law enforcers. V'shafetu et ha'am mishpat tzedek, and they will judge the nation with a righteous judgment. So, the Zera Shimshon asks, who is the judges going to judge? Obviously, the citizens of the nation. So he asks, why at the end of the pasuk does it have to say v'shafetu et ha'am mishpat tzedek? Just v'shafetu. Why the nation? It's obvious that they're going to be teaching, that they're going to be judging the nation. Well, who else are they going to judge? They're going to judge their enemies? They're going to judge each other? No, obviously, when two are going to come to court, the judge is going to judge them. That's his first question. His second question is, why do they need to judge a mishpat tzedek? It would have been very nice as v'shafetu et ha'am tzedek, or betzedek, or it says v'shafetu betzedek. Why? His question is twofold. It's why is the need for the Torah to tell us that they are judging the nation? That's obvious. And secondly, what's this concept of mishpat tzedek, judging a righteous judgment? So listen to the Zera Shimshon answers. He says that sometimes when a judge has to pass a judgment, they have to sometimes be creative in the way they pass the judgment. Meaning, even though 1 + 1 is 2, and sometimes when it comes to court, it comes to litigation or anything of the such, sometimes in the textbooks, in the law book, in the code of law, it says to do it one way, but the judge sometimes has to be wise enough and smart enough to do otherwise. And he gives an example. And obviously with the righteous intentions. Gives the example, the Gemara speaks about Rav Hizda. Rav Hizda himself was a judge. He was a dayan in the Beit Din. And came to him an interesting individual. His name was Mari Bar Iska. This is the Gemara in Masechet Bava Metzia. Mari Bar Iska came to him, and he had a reputation, this Mari Bar Iska, to be a hothead, to be a stubborn guy, to be a bully, to be vicious towards other individuals, taking advantage of others. So Rav Chizda was very strict on him. And he was even coming to the judgment against him. So Mari Bar Iska look at Rav Chizda and he tells him, is this what it says in the book? In Shulchan Aruch, this is the way it should be? No, I think I'm in favor. So Rav Chizda answers him, and the Gemara tells us that to an individual like you, someone who's trying to take advantage of others, the law is different. This is the way you are treated. This is the source the Zera Shimshon brings to his aid. Now he goes and answers, why v'shafetu et ha'am, to judge the nation? It's obvious that you're going to judge the nation. He says as follows, where do we see that the Jewish people were called an am? Let's take a step back. How many different words can we use to call a group of people? You could say kahal, you could say a tzibur, you could say an edah, and you could also say am. So look what the Zera Shimshon cites as where the Jewish people were called an am. In Bamidbar, chapter 11, verse 1, it says as follows. Vayhi ha'am ki mit'onenim ra be'oznei Adonai. That the Jewish people were complaining. And it was evil to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vayishma Adonai vayicha rapo vativ'ar bam esh. Adonai vatochal b'ktzei machane, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu heard their complaints and he punished them with a fire that broke out in the encampment. Nevertheless, Zera Shimshon sees that it is a derogatory term to call a group of people an am. Another derogatory, we normally say Am Haaretz, right? Am Haaretz is an ignorant individual. Am is not a nice way to refer to someone. So the Zera Shimshon says, you know why the Torah says, V'shafitu et ha'am mishpat tzedek? To those people who are inferior, to those people who try to bully others, to those people who try to use the law and bend it to their advantage when they're trying to be sneaky. Those people, give them a mishpat tzedek. What is a mishpat tzedek? It should just be mishpat or it should just be tzedek. No. Mishpat tzedek together. That if they're trying to use the law for their advantage, don't let them do so. Even if according to the book, they are right, but if you know they are sneaky and you know that they are doing something wrong, your gut tells you, it's almost like you almost can't pinpoint it, but your gut tells you as a judge that someone is trying to take advantage of someone else. They're an Am, they're from the Am, they're inferior, give them a mishpat tzedek. Try to twist the law, look how interesting, twist the law to the disadvantage of the individual who is sneaky. Now he goes to explain. The Shulchan Aruch, there's a halacha that if a case comes in front of the Dayan has a right to not give a judgment. They're able to leave it, so to say, up in the air. But the Shulchan Aruch says that's only true if the plaintiff is the one who is sneaky. But if the defendant is the sneaky one, and now the plaintiff who's suing or asking for something, you have to judge. If the defendant is the sneaky one and he's trying to get away from paying or from doing the service that he was supposed to do, the Dayan is not allowed to say, I don't want to judge because I don't know how the case is going. He gives one last proof. This comes from the Ramah, also in the Shulchan Aruch. Says that if a judge has a case that comes to him and he doesn't know how to give a judgment because something's convoluted, something's not so clear, but he does feel that one of the parties is not doing things correctly, but he can't pinpoint it, he won't be able to prove it according to the halakha. What he's able to do is he's able to put that individual that he thinks that is sly and put him into, as we call in Hebrew, herem, which means to put him into some type of excommunication, which means no one's allowed to do any business with that individual. So they might be trying to take advantage of someone else, but the purpose of Bet Din going on and doing that is showing him that, yeah, you're trying to gain over here, but now you're going to have a loss elsewhere. So we see that the Torah and the Halakha gave the power to a judge to sometimes use his creativity in order to judge properly. And this tells us, and this answers Zera Shimshon's question, why was the V'shafetu et ha'am mishpat tzedek? Judge the nation. Again, the nation are those people who are trying to take advantage. Mishpat tzedek, even if it's not as it says it in the book, but if you need to sometimes amend or twist the law in order to uphold righteousness, as a judge should do so. Now today, in the society we live in, we have the civil court, we have the Bet Din. We know that when two Jews have something between them, an argument, especially a monetary argument, ideally they should try to work it out. If they can't work it out with a compromise, go to see either the Bet Din or a rabbi. And if something can't get settled, unfortunately, it does get escalated to the civil court. It should not go directly to the civil court. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. That's not what the halakha dictates from us. But it's important to note that, again, I'm friendly with lawyers as well as some judges, Jewish ones and non-Jewish ones alike. And you have to see sometimes when you meet a lawyer who is honest and they're really trying to take on a case to uphold the truth, to bring out justice, for the sake of justice, for the sake of emet. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful when you see a judge who uses these principles to try to really, if it says it a certain way and that makes sense in the situation, well, then they let it come out that way. But if it says it in the opposite, but their gut's telling them that something's not right over here, they're doing so for the sake of God and for the sake of peace and for truth. But unfortunately, there are lawyers as well as judges that don't live and practice these ethics. Now, there's nothing we can do about it, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if a person has to find themselves in court with lawyers or with a judge, lo aleinu v'lo alechem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put that individual there. However, for any of us who are or know of lawyers or judges, to encourage them to practice their occupation with a sense of yirat shamayim, fear of Hashem. Because after all, let me ask you a question. When you come, whether you are a judge or a lawyer, or you are one of the subjects, nobody, when the judge is presented with the case, they don't know the truth. They cannot put their life on the line that if they are now giving a judgment which is not the truth as it really was, no one would ever do that, because nobody ever knows. You have two people, you have two stories, you have lawyers, you have evidence, but all that, as we know, could either be made up or be true, but no one knows. As a judge and as a lawyer, we have to understand that you are acting with the evidence and the case that is being brought in front of you, and you're just trying to bring out peace and truth and justice based on what's brought in front of you. But ultimately, the only judge is Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's the only one who knows what really happened, who was really right, who was wrong, who had pure motives, and who was trying to be sneaky, and who was trying to take advantage of the other. So being a judge and being a lawyer is a very worthy position. It's a very responsible position. And it's also stressful, but it's something which a lawyer and judge on a daily basis has to infuse within them the fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in order that they bring out the justice at its greatest way. So we bless all the lawyers and all the judges who have to deal with these situations. We know that it's non-stop, to really spend an effort on infusing themselves with Yirat Hashem and knowing that they are acting as messengers to uphold justice in this world between people.